It's difficult for me to start, Your Excellency. Of course, this is my second homecoming here, and it's obviously a great privilege and honor once again to be in your audience, this time for a slightly different reason from the previous visit. And I must thank you profusely and profoundly and sincerely for encouraging this visit, which is really technically a private visit, for the Northern Elders Forum to come down the southern part of the country and see some of our kith and kin who, in the light of what has happened recently, anxious protests and the consequences, the side consequences of that protest, which was well intended but unfortunately degenerated into violence, where our community members living in the southern part of the country, but shall we say from the north, suffered a lot of injury both to life and assets. We had a number of complaints, but it's our belief that it's always better to base your action or decisions and so on based on facts that you can rely upon, rather than rumors. Particularly, this country is very good in rumor mongering and fake news and so on and so forth. So we decided to send a small fact-finding mission to some parts of the south to see what really happened. And they were here. They paid you a courtesy call. And if it is out of that courtesy call, we feel encouraged that we should come. And for that, we thank you very sincerely for encouraging us to come and see things for ourselves, even though this is very much a private visit, but it's very helpful for community reasons and so on. So we came, and I'd like to emphasize the kindness and the warmth, the reception, and so on that we received right from our arrival in Port Harcourt yesterday. We're being comfortably housed. It was later I realized that the place where I was housed belongs to a friend of mine, Sergeant Awuse. I hope I'll be able to see him before I leave Port Harcourt. So, the program that we designed, or that was designed for us to be able to take care of this visit in terms of its intentions, is to first sit with our community from the northern parts of the country, to hear from them and to hear from their leadership, in particular, in terms of what truly happened, and for us to corroborate what they told us were the findings of the visitation verification panel that we sent earlier down. And we did that yesterday with the community largely based here in River State. And we're looking forward to the larger town hall meeting tomorrow with communities from other states in the south. Now, at least I can speak on behalf of the forum and relate that to our experiences with the communities that reside in River State. Your Excellency, we like, on behalf, not only on behalf of the Northern Elders Forum and on behalf of Northern communities wherever, to thank you very sincerely for what we have heard and indeed what we have seen in terms of what you have been able to do to help ameliorate some of the challenges and difficulties faced by our brothers living here. We have to call them brothers because they live here, but still, in fact, there are more here than there. But all the same, when some of these events or incidents happen, people, unfortunately, and sometimes tragically, refer to where they call their own. But from what we saw since we arrived, and before we arrived, from what we received in terms of report, it was very clear that the people of northern extraction from different parts of the north that are living in River State are fairly comfortable and satisfied with the kind of empathy and sympathy and care that you have shown in terms of your responsibility as the governor of all people resident, not necessarily indigents of River State. And there's no doubt in my mind that this perhaps can be explained by history. The greatest history political, in terms of political relationship between the people of the north and the southern part of the country can always be found deeply rooted here in the Niger Delta area. For those of us who are young enough to be 80 plus, we saw this. I remember first governor of River State, Milford Ukilo, who was a friend of my governor then in Kaduna, Abakari, who was then governor of North Central State, and I was a commissioner in his government, who had always related very well. And I think when you look at the federal establishment, the federal government and so on, first and only prime minister linked very, very strongly with rivers and the people of the South. And I think, I don't know what else one can add to that. The only thing is that we seem to be a bit careless in terms of relating history to our children over the years. Permit me, Your Excellency, to share this experience with you. that when we had our first constitutional conference in 1987, and this is where I met my friend that I've just mentioned, Sergeant Abuse, and as the debate was raging in the constitutional conference, and everybody was talking about his people, my people, I'm sidelined, I'm neglected, and so on and so forth. Everybody was doing that from all parts of the country. You sometimes ask yourself then, who is telling who the truth? And who really is telling the children the truth? Because most of the chaps that attended those conferences at my age at that time, about 40 plus, were very much part of everything that had happened. We should know everything that had happened to the country. And we should be able at all times to tell our children, not the story we want to hear or tell them, but we should tell them the story of the country in terms of what it has gone through and what needs to be told to the children. Because when I looked at the age, our various age groups during that conference and after, and found that we spoke as if we are from different countries, as if we didn't know each other, or as if we, it's so difficult to explain. Why should this be the case? And this takes me on to an experience I had when I was serving as special advisor to President Obasanjo. And he used to call in people from different parts of the country and challenge them in terms of why is the Nigerian project not working? This is his common expression. The Nigerian project is not working. The Nigerian project. Then he called the delegation from the western states, and he called me in. I didn't know why he called me in because I'm not from that area. The only thing he perhaps used was the fact that I studied at the University of Ibadan, and the only university at the time, so everybody had to go to the West. So he called me in, and he raised that question. Fortunately, Professor Ade Ajayi was in the delegation. He's professor of history, and he was also vice chancellor, University of Lagos. When I raised my hand, I said that, Mr. President, because Nigerian children are not being taught Nigerian history. Then he pounced on me. You hear your friend, you hear this man who are not teaching Nigerian history? Ajayi, is that true? Fortunately for me, Professor Ajayi said he is absolutely correct. We're not teaching Nigerian history. We teach British Empire history. We teach all sorts of things. But we do not teach Nigerian history. And of course, immediately set up experts in history, Bala Usman, Professor Ajayi, many others, for them to go and write textbooks right from primary up to university level in terms of what should be an academically driven history of Nigerian history. Not the history I want to teach my child as a Hausa Fulani man, or in terms of the sweet things that. So, Your Excellency, the story here is that we came and we met northerners who are living in your state. And the story they told us is that if this story can be repeated or could be the same story that we can find everywhere else in this country, then we'll not be having the kind of problems that we're having today. So here, sir, you have a leadership role to play in terms of what the country requires. We know our challenge. You know our challenge is now more than I do. You are not on the warm seat that you used to be, but you are on the hot seat now. So you must be talking from the hot seat. And when you are talking from the hot seat, I hope your colleagues who are also talking from similar seats from elsewhere in different parts of the country should listen. And this is the challenge we have today. And if you can put your heads together, this country will not only survive, but it will also thrive. So, Excellency, I think from the discussion we had with our brothers and sisters who live here, and they are almost more yours than ours, is that there is a lot of hope in this country. What is missing, while we're having virus pandemic, perhaps we're also having leadership pandemic. And something has to be done about this. Your Excellency, I like on behalf of our delegation, and you can see from the delegation, there is one, as we went around the table, who is older than I am. I'm only 82, and he is looking 90. And he's, of course, looking better than I am, because I think he enjoyed more than I did. I suffered more than he did. As former vice chancellor of a university, that the only thing that the student and staff knows is Ango must go. So I want to assure you, around the table here, you have just a sample of people who are committed to this country. They serve this country in various capacities. He started as a resident officer, DO, during the colonial administration, up to the time of independence. And here he is, even at this age, willing and able to serve his people. And I'm sure we have such people around the country. All we need to do is to harness their backgrounds and their commitments to the nation, so that we really have to come down and face the challenges of this country. This country could not be luckier than it has been. God has been very kind to us, but I don't know whether we have been thanking God enough. Because if we have, perhaps a lot of the things that we have been doing wrongly, we shouldn't do, and then go back to him for a solution. So, Your Excellency, I will end this address. I'm going to leave this for the records in your office of our visit. But I would like to end by once again thanking you very specially for allowing this private visit, which has become almost official now, and for us to assure you from our discussion with the northerners that are living here, they have given us the full assurance that they are committed to being good residents and citizens of River State. And anytime you require their counsel or their advice or information where this information might help matters concerning the state or the country, they will be quite happy and able to do so. Once again, on our behalf, we thank you very, very much for having us in audience and your deputy and other officers and officials of Rivers State. Thank you.
The chairman of the Northern Elders Forum, Professor Ango Abdullahi, and very respected members of your team. When I heard of Galinaba as the former presidential candidate of my party then, NRC, Bashar Tofa, and then the man that speaks every time on the pages of newspaper, Dr. Junadia. And then Baba Akin, who will always speak out his mind. And so one of you here, whom it will be too difficult for me to name, but just to say that on behalf of the government and people of the state, let me welcome your team to Port Harcourt. It takes people who are committed to the unity of this country to take the steps you have taken today. Like you said, our country thrives on rumor, but at your age, you've taken time to go and find out yourself whether everything is okay with our people in the region. And before this visit, that's the first visit by the team that came, and like you said, who have reported to you. It's unfortunate that leadership, we have forgotten that the primary aim of governance is to protect life and property, irrespective of where you come from, irrespective of what religion you belong, irrespective of whichever party you belong to. The primary responsibility of every government is to make sure that lives and properties are being protected. When once that is lost, then there's nothing like governance again. The major aim of governance is to protect life and property. It's not to do road. People must be alive to use the road. If people are not alive, what are you doing roads for? If people are not alive, what are you building schools for? People must go to those schools. People must go to the hospitals you are building. So first of all, let them be alive to use all those infrastructures that you put on ground. But it appears, just like what you said, we have a pandemic. We also have leadership pandemic. This is the first time I'm hearing. So I want to thank you for giving us this word of experience. It is not in doubt. We have known before now the relationship between us and the northern part of the country, right from when Okilo was the parliamentary secretary of the former prime minister. So all of us know the relationship between our region and the northern part of the country. That alone tells us that we have to do everything we can to protect not just your interests in the state, but to make sure that nobody does anything wrong and without us looking into it. We also make sure that all other people who are living in the state are given similar protection. But here in our country, ethnicity and religion has taken over. We talk about corruption. If we don't believe that we are together, if we see ourselves differently, Obviously, there's no way. But if we see ourselves as one, irrespective of the language you speak, nobody chooses where you come from. It's God. Nobody will say, and look, before I was given birth to, I told God, I want to come from the northern part of the country. I want to come from the southern part of the country. It's as it pleases God that he said, look, Professor Angwa Abdullahi, you come from Kaduna. Galoma, you come from Kano. Me, I will come from Rivers. So it is not by our choice that you will say, this is where you will come from. But if the Father God has also made it possible for us to be part of one country, it means that where you come from shouldn't be a factor in order to move this country forward. If leadership is serious, if we don't politicize the issue of security, we wouldn't have been where we are today. Take, for example, in 2016-17, at the Passover, that is said, then the end of the year, that the first night, going to January 1st. Normally, as Christians, we do what they call a Passover night. That early morning, a criminal, a cultist, killed over 100 people coming from church. Coming from church. Cultists. I raised an alarm. The federal government never listened to me. It was politicized. It was politicized. Now, how would you hear that over 100 people have been slaughtered and no drastic action to support the state government to see how you can tackle that incident? It was left for me alone because I belong to a different political party. Is that the way we should do it? And I said, well, if you don't look into the issues of your security now, by the time you know it, it will ravage the entire country. Today, no part of Nigeria is safe. No part of Nigeria is safe. When the issue of SARS started in this country, our state was the greatest victim of assault, of brutalities by SARS. I raised an alarm to the federal government. This SARS will cause a damage that if you don't scrap them now, we may regret it tomorrow. They didn't listen. Why? It was coming from me, from opposition. What has now happened? The same SARS. You've now seen how Nigerians have organized themselves. Look at the level of destruction that took place in most parts of the country. In most parts of the country. If it's the government that do not politicize the issue of security, at that time, they would have taken steps to making sure how SARS is brought to them as well, they will do the right thing. Rather, what I found out in the country is that when you complain against officers of government or against individuals in government, what government does is to say, look, don't bother him. They promote that individual or officers. Have you seen a country where INEC, in a report by themselves, wrote to IG not this IG now. That's former IG, Idris. Idris. INEC, in their own report, not we, signed by the chairman of INEC, sent to IG. Look, this particular officer was one who beat up our officer, our INEC staff, took the electoral materials, not we wrote to, INEC wrote. Do you know what happened? Instead of IG to take steps, the next day they promoted the person, Deputy Commissioner of Police. INEC wrote to you, this particular officer, we don't want him again. We don't want it. They sent him back here to kill the people he wanted to kill. Then went back and became a Deputy Commissioner of Police. That is the country. That is the country. So, for me, it doesn't matter where you come from. I owe a duty to protect anybody who lives here, who does business here. After all, most of your people who are born here, they won't even go back. Some of them will marry here. So for as far as they are concerned, this is their home. So wherever you do business, wherever you live, that is their home. That's what I believe in. But you see, some people misunderstand policies of government. Take for example, we're building a flyover at a place called Mokoro. We are supposed to commission that flyover this December. George wrote to know that they cannot. I said, why? The market have taken over the place. I drove with my team, we went there. In fact, you can't believe it. Our vehicle couldn't enter, we have to come down to track. Market everywhere, so beggars said, they cannot walk. So what do? I must find a way to drive them just under the where they are building. Now, when I sent them away, what happened? Politics came in. Now sending the Igbos out of the place. So you can see politics. Take for example, when we are dualizing the period where you have the presidential hotel, our brothers and other brothers who are there doing the, what do you call this, British church, I called them. I said, come. This is only 3-star hotel we have. For security reasons, it is not advisable to be here and you are cooking. No. Go and get a place. I will pay. Where you can do your the chain. Before I knew it, they sent messages out that I'm pursuing the house that. You see, in everything you do, we bring in politics, ethnicity, and the rest. One day I traveled out of the country, I came back. Around midnight, my colleague from Sokoto called me. That what happened? That I went to demolish mosque. I said, which mosque? He said, that's what the report you got now. So it was all over. In fact, that was the initial problem I had with my brother governor in Kano, and then the former Kano governor, Shikarao. Without even calling me to find out whether a mosque was demolished. So I was surprised. I called my parents and said, come, why did people go and demolish the mosque? Who gave you approval? He said, which mosque did they demolish? That's okay. He said, oh, there's a place that they have a court matter with some of the groups, and they won in the court. So we told them, don't build anything here. Use it for your prayer. And nothing was built. We went there. No mosque was in existence. It had to take the governor of the chairman of Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fahimi, to fly down here. I went to the place. I said, what kind of politics are we playing? Something that is not in existence. How can you demolish what is not in existence? How? How? It's like me now going to say a church to demolish without even calling them. Say, look, government intend to do something here. What do we do? We're willing to find another place or compensate you. You cannot just go and say church demolish. Then say mosque you demolish. Who does that? But people have taken it as if it was true. It was the truth, but it's not correct. And these are the things that, like you said, you came to find out what has happened. But if you don't come to find out, you may begin to believe that these things are correct, but they're not correct. So I thank you for this opportunity to have made that time to come to the state to ascertain for yourself. The NSAP protest was very peaceful in River State, very peaceful. Very peaceful. Oyibo local government is one of the biggest local governments in terms of population. Now, miscreants would wake up in the morning because people are doing NSAR protests. We are beginning to kill innocent people, burn down police stations, kill police people, kill soldiers, burn them, destroy courts. And then when you say, look, what you have done is wrong, we can't allow this. They say, oh, you are against a particular ethnic group. How can that be? And it led to almost a big violence between this group and this group. And I'm the governor of the state. How can I allow my state to be a theater of war? I said, no, I won't agree to that. Nobody can sack anybody here. Everybody has the right to say, I want to live here, I don't want to live here, but you cannot tell me that this place is your own place. No, I will not accept that. I will not accept that. So, I thank God that you came, and I can assure you that I will not do anything that will not be fair to every ethnic group. I will not. I won't do that, because whether you like it or not, we also have people who are living outside. I did my youth service in the former Gongola. So yes, I did my service. In fact, I was there when Taraba was created. When I was Minister of State Education, the only state in the north I did not go to was Yobe. I was the first minister who went to Bruno when Boko Haram was very serious. That I was first minister. So there's no state in the north I've not been to, apart from Yobe. I've traveled every state in the north as the Minister of State Education. So, I mean, nobody can come and tell me that I should not have a good relationship with the northern part or the north. That's not possible. Some of us who don't work that way at all. I have a lot of friends from the north. So all I will say is that for everybody to put our hands together and move this country forward. Let us not do things that will continue to divide the country. This issue of ethnicity and religion is trying to tear Nigeria apart. And you must have a strong leadership that should say, no, enough is enough. If you can't take decision, too bad. If you can't take decision, too bad. And I'm happy we're not talking politics now. When I heard Baba King spoke in channels, I'm happy the government he gave to us. And like he said, you gave to us. So all of you must shout from the blade. Each time I hear people like you talk, I just go back and find one bottle of Coke and drink. So, but where we are, that doesn't work at so we must continue to find a way to see how everybody must help this country to move forward, irrespective of religion or ethnicity. So on this note, I want to sincerely thank you, our Father, and the leaders who came with you, and be assured that we'll continue to relate. And if there are things you want me to know, to do not hesitate. Let me know. I don't, please do us the favor of anything you hear, find out whether it is true. Like I said, rumor in this country now is something else, rumor. So we must try to find a way to share the truth from the false story. Thank you and God bless you.